Hey guys, welcome back. So I just realized I've never actually done a video reviewing a single book before, and that all changes today because I recently read a serial killer romance and I want to talk about it. So the story is actually told across 5 novellas, and the name of the series is called the Mind series by St. Abbey. Let's take a quick moment that I didn't realize until literally the last book when I was reading the author's note that St. Abbey is stabby. That actually comes into play into this series. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there as like a fun little Easter egg that I didn't get. But yeah, I for some reason was in the mood for a dark romance. I will be completely honest, I don't know if this categorizes as a dark romance. However, I'm definitely going to put it under dark romance for myself because of the nature of the story. So when I say serial killer romance, I mean literally we have a romance story that involves a serial killer. As a huge fan of the crime genre, of shows like Mindhunters and Criminal Minds, the fact that there is a story out there blending together the romance genre, which obviously I am a fan of, and the kind of crime fiction, dark, gory TV show genre, I don't know what you want to call it, I knew that I had to check this book out. So basically what we have is a woman named Lana who meets a guy named Logan, and the two of them fall in love. That is the story at its base level. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty details because Lana is actually a serial killer and Logan is actually an FBI profiler. So we've already got our Criminal Minds vibes right there. Before I kind of dive into this, I will say I'm going to try not to give spoilers, but I am going to get pretty in detail about the book. So I will just put like a little spoiler warning at the bottom if you wanted to kind of skip ahead parts that I may or may not accidentally spoil. But let's just kind of talk about it because this book took me on one hell of a ride. Like I said, it is broken down into 5 novellas, and I started reading the first one during this weekend, kind of put it down, didn't really do too much about it, and I picked it back up yesterday to finish it off, and then immediately proceeded to blow through books 2 through 5 in one day. And even though these are novellas, they're still about 120 pages. So all in all, my eyes were burning yesterday when I was done reading because I read like well over 400 pages because this story was just that compelling. The story starts off with Lana and Logan meeting serendipitously at a coffee shop. And it's actually Logan's friend who tries to hit on her. She shows no interest, but Logan is the one that kind of captures her attention. He gives her his number, and the two of them proceed to form a like text relationship. So almost immediately we see that Lana is a serial killer. However, I will say it was the beginning of the first book that kind of threw me off, and I was only temporarily disappointed because when I heard that this was a serial killer romance, I was expecting somebody like Ted Bundy or Dexter or name another serial killer. Basically somebody who is a sociopath out to kill who just happens to fall in love. However, in this case, while Lana is still, yes, technically a serial killer, she's more of a revenge killer. And we can kind of get more into that as I go on into my review. But she has basically a list of people who she is seeking revenge after and is going through and methodically killing each and every one of them. So I was a little disappointed by that because she is doing it for what she believes is a just cause rather than a typical serial killer going out and randomly choosing victims. Now, after I got over that, I proceeded to adore, is adore the right word in this case? I don't know, but I proceeded to gobble up and give 5 stars to every other book in the series because it's just that compelling. So, one of the things, obviously, that makes it so intriguing is the dynamic between our hero and heroine because she's a serial killer and he is an FBI agent. And you know you gotta toss some extra drama in there. So yes, he is in fact trying to hunt her down. Now, in the beginning, he doesn't know that it is her. He actually thinks that his unsub is a male going around and killing people. But the story is actually told through alternating points of view, from Lana's point of view and from Logan's point of view, first person, which I really enjoyed, because we get to see inside of Lana's head and kind of understand her rationale and her need to seek out revenge for these people that she is killing. And then also from Logan's point of view, we see him not only falling in love with this woman who, you know, he's still getting to know, but there's just that connection there that he can't explain. And then at the same time, him doing his job, trying to hunt down a killer who is constantly evading him. Now, even though the books are technically a serial that you have to read all together to get the full overarching plot, one of the things that I enjoyed about this series is that in each book, for the most part, there is also an additional case that Logan is trying to solve, which makes it very much like a Criminal Minds episode, because you see him doing his job beyond just trying to hunt down Lana, or the person who is unknown who ends up happening to be Lana. Now, I will say that this book is very graphic. As somebody who does enjoy kind of like those darker crime procedural type shows and books, that didn't bother me, but putting a little trigger out there just in case. It gets very graphic, very gory, very explicit. But again, I really actually enjoyed all of these things because you ended up getting such a visceral reaction. And because by that point you have seen from Lana's point of view everything that she has gone through and her intentions before these killings, basically, you're kind of along for the ride. And so it's not something that you necessarily want to shy away from, just because at that point you are right alongside with her, seeking out these revenge killings. So I'll put a little spoiler here because I do want to talk about why Lana is going out and basically killing all these people. To put it in short, basically her and her brother were abused and basically left for dead in this small town that they lived in, and she ends up faking her death pretty much and spending the next 2 years doing reconstructive surgery, learning to become a badass, and basically plotting the death of all of the people responsible for what happened to her family as a whole. Now, if you are with me and you didn't mute that part, just know that there are still some extra details in the story that I have not given away, so you'll still be kind of surprised if you decide to read it. But as a whole, that's her intention behind this, and it's in that sense that this book really gave me kind of It vibes, because the town itself, along with the people in it, becomes a character as well, becomes one of the antagonists in the story, because you learn about the town history, you learn about what happened the night that her and her brother were basically left for dead, and why she wants to exact revenge on the town as a whole, as well as the individuals who took part in what happened that night. So that's why I was saying, by the time you are like right alongside her as she's doing these heinous things to people, you kind of get a reason why. You kind of understand her point of view. Now, obviously, I'm not justifying anything, but at the same time, I will say sometimes justice comes in the form of unconventional methods and means, and I really think that that is a theme throughout this story, because, you know, obviously we've got somebody whose job it is to go after these people who have done wrong and to err on the side of the law, who believe in the law and believe in justice, and bringing people down using the criminal system. But you know, sometimes the law fails, and that's what we have vigilantes for, people who try to go to the cops or try to turn to the people who are supposed to be helping, only to be shunned and having to take matters into their own hands. And that's exactly what Lana does. Now, she does have let's talk a little bit about the side characters, because she does have a kind of right-hand man, somebody who is basically like a brother to her, helping her with all of these things, and I really enjoyed his character as well. He's kind of like the techie guy, again, very like Spencer from Criminal Minds. I keep quoting Criminal Minds because it's one of my favorite shows, and it's very apt in this situation. But seeing their dynamic, I think, is also really sweet, because when I was first reading the story, I'm one of those people where I'm reading it and I'm like suspicious about everyone and trying to predict every drama that's going to happen. So when he appears, I'm like, he's gonna turn on her. He secretly got feelings for her and all of that. But their relationship holds solid, which is something that I really appreciate, because, you know, it's refreshing to see that there can be male-female relationships in a romance or in a story, and they're not actually trying to be together, or one isn't necessarily pining for the other. So I appreciate that. But from Logan's point of view, let's talk about him, because I was trying to decide which of the Criminal Minds characters he would be, and I really didn't do a good job with that because his description is unlike any of the other characters. But at the same time, the way that he acts, I couldn't necessarily nail down you know, who he might be. But regardless, as a character in general, I absolutely adore him. He trusts Lana. There is kind of like this instant chemistry between the two of them that starts off, I would say, as insta-love, but we see it kind of progress to them really just having feelings for each other, and he gives his trust to her freely. I mean, not that he would have a reason not to, from his point of view, obviously. But at the same time, he never pushes her to talk about her past, because as they are getting to know each other, you know, she'll kind of go in and out of opening up, but then he can tell that she's trying to hide something. So I thought it was extremely interesting that as a profiler, he would try and look for cues or clues from her to kind of figure out where her headspace is at, but she constantly leaves him wondering, because by that time she has trained her body and trained her mind to keep up with this facade so that she can execute her plan. So she's a bit of a challenge for him, and we all know that, you know, thrill of the chase, and men love the chase when it comes to romance. So that part of their relationship I thought was really fun. No doubt they have chemistry in the bedroom. This is a romance, so there's plenty of that, don't worry. But the plot as a whole was just so fantastic. And you know, there's actually a subplot I mentioned earlier, how oops, my battery, I'm just chatting away. Gotta check my battery. I mentioned how there are kind of like how do I say, like B plots where Logan is trying to hunt down other serial killers or other killers, or he has other cases beyond just trying to look for her, and she actually steps in to try and help him out without him knowing, which is just, I don't want to give too much away, but she did it for him, and the things that she does to basically keep her relationship with him intact is sweet in its own way. You know, towards the end of the book, she starts to basically lose her humanity because, you know, doing dark things and putting yourself in a dark headspace can take its toll on you, but she constantly references him as her beacon of light, and the thought of him just brings her out of that dark place, which I thought was also very sweet. But as a whole, it's just a freaking fantastic series. As I mentioned, I wanted to read a serial killer romance, and I thought I was getting something else, and even though it wasn't that, it ended up being way more fantastic than I could have ever imagined. And I just want to point out like another kind of cutesy thing that I thought was hilarious, because she explains to him how she ends up choosing her kind of fake name or her new identity, and it has to do with slasher films. That's all I'll say, but I thought it was absolutely hilarious because it kind of comes full circle in the end. This story, to be a romance, has a lot of layers, because I wasn't expecting anything beyond just like the shock value of a serial killer romance going into it, but it ended up being so much more than that. So I highly recommend it. As I mentioned, it is graphic, so just know that going in, that she doesn't shy away from any of the gory details, but I really think that the violence adds to the story, and it's not necessarily gratuitous, even if it is explicit. But yeah, I really wanted to just share my thoughts about it because I thought it was a fantastic story. So let me know in the comments if you've ever read a kind of dark romance, or a romance with maybe like unorthodox characters. They don't necessarily have to be serial killers, but just in general, because I'm interested in that. And I would be lying if I say that I didn't look up other serial killer romances after this, because I do think that it is a challenge or a skill in storytelling, basically getting these characters who are inherently looked at as bad or evil and giving them a love life, which is always interesting, or, you know, some sense of humanity, which is definitely something that we see in Lana. And I really enjoyed that. So that's all I gotta say. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said, it's my first review of a book. Hopefully I didn't ramble too much. I probably did, as I usually do, but please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more content like it. And in the meantime, happy reading. Bye!